You're right about that sentence, and I'm going to use it. The structure of the book now with 10 topics, the narration in the first person, hook into chaos, with the document as it is not a lottery ticket. CTA, sign plus share at the end of the input. CTA, comment in the threads at 3, 6, and 9. A CTA entry is super strong on the topic 7 and topic 10, and with all of the CT plus call pro is the video on the screen. From here on, it's these, well over 35,000 characters in length, with the character and details 100% unique. Theme: an elderly rich man humiliated by the appearance of a simple in-office of luxury. Topic 1, as opening in the chaos of Hook's gross. This document is not a lottery ticket. When that phrase has exploded in the air, and I swear to you, the sound seemed to be beating at the walls and the marble floor of the office and back many times over. I was there with my camera in the bag, because I never record the inside of the place as well. But I always look at. I have a channel, and I have learned that the stories of the most remarkable almost always start with something small. A look at wrong, a phrase that is crossed, a humiliation. It is free. And at that moment, everyone looked to the same extent. A gentleman stopped, half bent, holding a folder of old against his chest, as if it were a shield. In the suit, it wasn't straight. The shoe was a simple one. The stubble he gave the impression that he was out of the house in a hurry. But the more he called, the attention wasn't. It was the way he was trying to continue to reside there, without disturbing anyone else. The tablia, clean, expensive perfume, hair stuck to it as if it were part of the uniform. It was with his arms stretched out, holding a document of the Lord at the tip of your fingers, as if it's a napkin that is used. And the laughter, oh my God. A woman behind me let out an, oh, what a shame, laughing, as if it were entertainment. A clock face shining looked to the Lord and said too, it's there, it's in the wrong place. And the worst part, that's when someone bumped into him on purpose. It was not an accident. I have seen the one shoulder, turning towards him with the intention to do so. In the folder of the old almost fell over. The Lord has pressed more strongly, and I saw the vein in his neck pulsing. Not the anger, the effort. A lot of work to do not to collapse right there. And then there was the security guard, that kind of likes the feeling of being the owner of the place. He came as close as if you were dealing with a problem. Let us go, the Lord's way. And the Lord opened her mouth to speak, but the tabellion cut off again in a voice sharp. The document is not a lottery ticket. What do you think they come up with something, and you ready? More laughter. And I felt a very strange thing because it is a part of me wanted to get out of there. Just another part. The part that had learned to recognize when something big's about to happen, he was. Because in that second, I saw something in the eyes of the Lord. It was not a look for those who have lost it. It was a look I was holding a bomb. And I think to myself, okay, I've just got to see for the rest of the story. Just don't. It was not the end. It was only some of the more critical. And when I found out that this was the moment where it would all come crashing down for me to it, the history, he made a turn so absurd, cruel, and so unexpected that I can't even explain it without pulling out of me. So stay with me. Because of what had happened at the office, a luxury, it wasn't just the humiliation. It was a trap. And is anyone there knew exactly what he was doing? What if I tell you that, while everyone else laughed, a signature had been forged on the system? Because it is. And in the midst of it all, I ended up turning into a witness to the kind of thing that can end careers, destroy their reputations, and even worse, to erase the people of the world map without anyone noticing. And before I continue, let me ask you one quick thing, because I know that you're going to want to see the ending of it. If you subscribe to the channel right now and share this video with someone what do you believe that the appearance that defines the value? Seriously, do it now, because when the truth comes at the end, you'll just want more and more people be able to watch and understand exactly what had happened here. Breathe in. Now come with me. Topic 2. The humiliation of the collective climbing. In the office, it was to those who seemed to be luxury hotel. Everything was shining. Glass, metal, marble, and white light too. And then, in the midst of the scenery around it, clean. And the Lord seemed to be a mistake. An element is non-standard. And that's exactly how they treated him. Like a bug that needed to be fixed. The tablia, you placed the document on the top of the desk and tapped it with a fingernail at the top, as if it were a hallmark of contempt. It is worth nothing nowadays. She didn't say us. She said, around the world, as if he had the authority to decide what is true and what isn't worth. The Lord is tried to be explained. His voice came out low, but it is polite. My lady, I just need to get some right away. The word emergency, it was kind of gas-powered vehicles. The security guard took a step forward, and he made that gesture with his hand, pointing to the back of the line, like someone kicked out of a puppy. Go to the end of it, Lord. The Lord has tried to keep it clean. Only someone laughed again, and then another, and laughed, and all of a sudden, the entire place looked like a stage. And this is where the safety and touched it. Don't thrust with full force. Thrust is enough to humiliate them, to show you the power. I have to say, here, the one in charge, I am. The Lord has become unbalanced. I watched as his hand slammed on the desk for support. I watched as the fingers trembled. I watched as he closed his eyes for a moment, like the one who eats a thing, a little bitter. And just at that moment, a woman on the side released, "Look at that. What you want to record." The tabellion took up the document again, as if it was a trophy of the time. Cruel? The urgent, is it? Urgent is the one who has to deal in the truth. This right here is the pattern. This document is not a lottery ticket. And she has repeated the phrase on purpose because she liked the attention. And the Lord opened up the folder of the old town. In the folder I was exhausted, yes. But on the inside, he organization. Had the envelope with the label, I had a paper no need the dough. Had to be careful. And I have, over the top, and a border with a stamp on the old, well marked, very clean. Just that no one wanted to see it. Because when the bias decides to, the law turns to the last detail. The Lord pulled out a sheet of paper with the quiet and placed it on the counter. It's protocol. The tabellia not read it, not touch it. You only pushed her back with the tip of your finger. I'm not going to waste my time with that. And then, out of nowhere, someone from behind him kicked it to this folder. It was slight, but it was enough to make the contents from slipping. The paper fell to the floor, and it was the type of silence in short. What happens when someone does something that's ugly and waiting for approval? But the approval came in the form of laughs, a low whispering, and glances in the country. The Lord is let down only with great difficulty. And I can remember exactly what I thought at the time. Yeah, now comes the turning point. Right now he's going to prove to be. Right now he's going to show you who you are. But it's not. Your life does not turn on when you want it. Life gives you turn up when someone tries to bury it alive. And at the registry office, and I realized that they weren't just humiliating. They were trying to break up the time of it. It is as if each minute there was something to prevent something. As the urgency for him to be a threat, I felt a chill. Why, all of a sudden, I realized that the conflict was not a rich versus poor, or shaming versus justice. It was the greatest. It was urgent versus the conspiracy. And then I saw the Lord will collect the paper on the floor and tie it back into the folder, a calm, a little bit scary, in the calm of someone who has seen much worse, and you know that you are still going to see more of them. Topic 3. The simple request that turns into shame. ATC comments. He stood up again, took a deep breath and spoke in a voice still low, but now it had a firmness that is different, as if he had put on a stone in place of meat. I just need your approval to be made today. That's all. The tabellia, he raised his eyebrow, as if he had heard a joke. Now, she let out a laugh, short. Not right now. The Lord did not raise his voice, not threatened, did not show, and this has irked many more. My lady, I have to run. It's a matter of time, and that's when it happened. A thing that, for me, that was the first shock of the truth. She smiled, but that was not a smile of happiness. It was the smile of someone who thinks, "Oh, so that's it. You are in a hurry." And when the Lord, he said, still polite, the tabellia has waved a little with his finger, calling out to the security. A gesture is so natural that it seemed to be rehearsed. He's causing a disturbance. The Lord didn't even have time to react. The security guard was already close. He was already taking up the space I was trying to intimidate them. And from there the Lord dropped a phrase. It changed the air of the place. The I am not causing a disturbance. I'm asking the right one. Silence. But it didn't last long. Because it is a client. For those who ever want it to be funny. The last time he said it aloud. Right. Here is the office of the U.S. is serious, my friend. Laughter. And there you have it. The folder slid into you again. The Lord has he tried to hold on to, but the leather is worn. It has not helped. She fell to the ground, opening up, spreading it over the paper. And the one that came after that was a picture that I'll never forget. A man, dressed in, he kicked the ball. A document from the back, with your foot, without looking at it, not to mention nothing, as if it were trash. I have felt your stomach turn. The Lord paused for a moment, looking at Perkele the paper on the floor, and I saw the one thing that almost no one seeing it, and his eyes were filled with, not with him, the anger. Pray on. That anger that you have her because you know that if you drop it, you lose control of it. I wanted to ask you one thing, right here. In fact, have you ever seen someone being humiliated just for the look? Ever seen a person be treated as if it were not for us? Comment below, because I do read them all, and I want you to understand that this is more common than people think. And most of all, what was your reaction when you saw something like this? Because I'll tell you, I didn't react as I should have. I congelé. And the reason I was frozen? You'll understand later, when I realized that this humiliation was not just works. It was a strategy. And at that moment, the Lord has gathered for your paper return, smoothed it with his hand, and put it back in the folder. He looked at me, Tabelia, and said, in a tone of almost whispered, if the lady knew that which is in your hands, don't be laughing. And that's where the Tabelian did the most dangerous thing you can do when you think you're on top of it. She said, then show me. And I promise you, by the way she said it seemed like an invitation, but it was a trap. Topic 4. The detail that you all ignore. He opened up the folder that is taken care of. His hands were shaking a little bit, but it was not a weakness. It was like he was holding on to anything too heavy for one so small. He pulled out an envelope. Pearl, for those of old, in with the border is already turning yellow. Inside was a document with a stamp. And then I saw it again. The stamp on the old one. The razor sharp. The well-preserved. Just that they didn't want to read it. The Tabelia bent over the body, looked at it for 2 seconds and returned with contempt. The stamp is old, it's not worth anything if you do not have a record of the digital up to date. And she said, that's the one for sure, the one who likes to look modern and elegant. The Lord took a deep breath. He looked around. He saw their faces, laughing, and his eyes judge, and the whispering grows up. And he did something unexpected. He picked up the document, folded it slowly, and put it away, as if to say, okay, got it. And then he pulled out another piece of paper, a piece of paper that I didn't get to read for distance, but as you can see, the bottom-up process. The letters to the big, formal, and with a sound that seemed to be in the official journal. And again, no one wanted to see it. Because of that, they weren't interested in the truth. They were interested in getting to the theater office of the luxury of client, from the default, and the Lord did not fit the pattern. I just had a minor detail, for a detail so small that it would have hit you if I didn't have the habit of observing. For the Lord, no matter how simple it was not lost. He didn't really know where to look. He didn't really know what to ask for. He didn't really know what we don't talk about. And it made me uneasy. Because of the people, humble and anxious, when it comes in such an environment, you often get confused about. It's not. It was controlling. I felt a chill at the nape of the neck. The Tabelia, he made a gesture about it. Lord, the one's getting in the way of customer service, or the Lord will break off, or I'll call the manager. And she said, team management. A lot of people laughed at it, as if it was the threat of being expelled from paradise. It's just that the Lord has raised up his head and said, call it. And there you have it. The air was thick. Because it is not a challenge, that was for sure. And in that moment, I realized that there was something behind that no one there had any idea. However, instead of coming to a revelation, came the worst part of it. The part of you that you didn't expect. The part of the registrar's office of the incredible shows you what it really is, when no one important is watching. Topic 5. Face 1. The system hangs on the contempt of the management did not appear. The one that came on it was a note. A beep beep of dry, high, and coming out of the screen in the bar. And then another. And another one. All passwords have stopped rotating. That sound environment, the office, a keyboard, a printer, and people talking down. He was in agony, as if someone had turned down the volume of the entire place. And then, in one of the big screens, there appeared a notice that no one was expecting. I've seen the tabella and you will find your dream before you even read the whole thing. She leaned over, closer to the face of the screen, and her lips parted slightly, as if the world had pulled out of the ground. On the screen, the lyrics clearly, there appeared something like this. Download script. Auto approval. Price, 6,400 ceinture. Registrant. And it's the name that appeared on, it's the name of the Lord. Only it wasn't just that. Because right below it was a line that made my skin crawl. Alert compliance. Follow up foreign assets. The registrar's office full remained silent. The woman who laughed to cover his mouth. The man on the clock, it was still. The security guard who was full of the frame. He took a step back as if he had seen a pet is dangerous. And tabella. That began to change in the expression of a speed that's ridiculous. The contempt, he turned to panic. The situation turned into a smile as false. The fake smile turned into desperate attempt to regain control. Oh Lord, sorry, I didn't see that. For the Lord will not answer. He just looked at her with a look of quiet rest. And then came the sentence. I did not expect that he would say that. Have you not seen because they don't want to be? Silence. But the shock still hadn't come. Why, in that very moment, I saw an employee in the fund is up too fast. They pick up the phone and go out by a side door. And I think to myself, okay, this isn't the only surprise of the money. So here it is. Fear. The fear of someone who is not supposed to be there. The fear of someone who appeared out of the script. And there you have it. Before the tabella he could apologize again, it has a beep, beep. And there appeared another notification. This was the one that changed the mood in the darkness. Top of the audit log from the service being recorded. I have seen the hand of the tabella to go up to my neck, as if to keep the air out, and I will swear, at the moment I have understood. Someone had pitched for it. Just, someone forgot that he may have been reinforced before. Topic 6. The quiet strains. ATC comments. The laugh had vanished as if it had never existed. In the office it was that quiet that it hurts, because everyone starts to remind you of what you have just done. And what's worse, she begins to imagine the consequences. The tabella got up so fast the chair, it nearly fell off. Sir, please, I'm so sorry. We are going to solve it now, right away. Please, sit down here. She pointed to a chair that I hadn't even noticed before. Those seats VIP, hidden in the corner and made out to the client as important. The security guard rushed in and pulled up a chair. Excuse me, sir. Sorry. The Lord didn't move. He was standing up, holding onto the folder of the old town. And I'm never going to be forgotten in the midst of luxury, all in all, that folder to look old. But the way he held her, she seemed to say, this is worth more than all of that. Do you think it is worth? The tabella he began to speak quickly, just as if the words could erase the past. It was a misunderstanding, sir. I don't know that it was the Lord. Please, and the Lord said, without raising your tone, it is a misunderstanding that the name that appears on the screen. I felt a tightness in my chest, because it was true too. And then, all of a sudden, one of the clients is the same one that had smiled at him before he tried to approach it with the face of a person. You know the kind of person who changes from the side very quickly, so as not to look bad in a photo? Oh, sir. Sorry. We don't. The Lord looked at her only for a second. And that second was enough for her to stop in place. Because look at him. He was not pushy. It was a letdown. And again, I'm going to ask you this question, and says to himself, do you believe that people are changing for the truth when you realize that you have done wrong? Or is it only changes when you realize that you're going to be caught? Comment here, because this question is at the heart of this story. And now we come to the part of you that no one expected. Because in the beginning it was not, right now, they will respect you. The turning point was this, right now, they are all scared of him. And the fear, when you go into the living room. It makes people do terrible things. The topic, the 7. Turn 2. The truth revealed. CTA entry is super heavy. I've seen the tabellion trying to smile, but the corner of his mouth trembled. She was desperate to fix the situation and fast, before something external to arrive. And there the Lord opened up the folder of the old to the new, and he took one of the final document. He placed it on the counter. Take your time. I didn't come to sell you anything. The tabellion blinked, confused. What do you mean? The Lord looked at the back, and for the first time he spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. I came to stop the sale. Silence. He went on to say, the transfer of the 6,400,000 euros. It's not the prize. It is not luck. It is not a lottery. And then he pointed to the pro system. It is a proof that anybody has tried to run a subscription, which is not supposed to be there. I have a feeling the ice on its body. For now, the registrar's office full did not seem to be more of a place for product support. It seemed like the scene of the crime. The Lord took a deep breath. I have a deadline because if it is recorded in the wrong way today, tomorrow, and I don't have anything else. And it's not just the money. He worked in the folder of the old town. This is the last piece of my life that I can't protect you. The tabellion, he tried to say something, but her voice did not come out. And from there, the Lord dropped a bomb that nobody was ready to listen. This property will be sold to you. It's going to turn into a home, a place for elderly people abandoned. I fund all my own money. I just need this approval to stem the fraud. The entire place was in complete shock, because all of a sudden, the old Simple. It wasn't an old man Simple. He was someone who was going to mess around with interest. And then, I realized something more ominous. If anyone has tried to forge a sale, it's because someone else was going to gain a lot from this. And that means that he wasn't the only one being humiliated. He was being elate. What is the cheat to pass? And this is where I make a request to be serious. If you want stories like this, stories of real feeling, with a faceplate and the lessons that we never forget, subscribe now, because I'll post it whenever I don't play when it's to prove to them the truth of the human person. If you sign up for the truth, because in a little while you'll understand why I say to you that this day he almost ended up with someone to disappear. And yes, I'm serious. Topic 8. Turn 3. The authority to confirm. The screen blew his whistle again, and when it's the system and I for the 3rd time, I knew for sure that the universe had decided to tighten up the neck of the one who was wrong. He appeared in a formal message with a coat of arms. The office checking service is in progress. I've seen the tabellion swallowing dry place. And she tried to do such a thing, pathetic. She tried to pick up the document to you with kindness, as if he had turned a good guy into a 32nd. Of course, sir, we're going to see it with the greatest possible care. But then the Lord pulled out the document back in. Now, do you want to be careful? You wanted to laugh. The tabellion just sat there. The guard looked to the side, not knowing where to look, and there, on the phone, a worker went off. She answered in a rush. He turned his back and began to talk low, but I've seen the word, the office, coming out of her mouth. The registrar's office full realized he was not a threat. It was true. It was then that a woman, who, until then, it was gone a step ahead of you. I've seen what you've done. She spoke out loud. Her voice was shaking, but he was firm. I've seen the push. I saw it for the laughs. I saw the ball in the paper. And there was a man added, pointing to the pro-security. I. And you have a camera here, don't you? The security guard tried to speak, but the word died. And in that moment, it happened to someone as a surprise. One of the side doors opened to the public with the force, and in walked a man in a suit, simple show-offs, with a suitcase in black and with a look of ice cream. He did not ask for a license. It has not been kind. He showed an ID quickly and said, "Have a good night. The audit in real time. Nobody gets out of here." My heart raced. I thought to myself, it's turning into something else. And tabellion, which used to be a queen, turned out to be a person of slight build. It's just that the worst isn't that. The worst thing was that when the auditor looked to the Lord and said, "Lord, but sorry for the delay. We had to commit to the movement of the suspect." I repeat that in your mind, the name of human. And so, the auditor is said, there is some evidence of an attempt to record or misuse your name. And there is evidence to suggest that anyone on here has tried to delay it, you know. I felt the blood away from his face. Because of the humiliation, he was not casual. It was all part of the plan. And now, the plan was exposed. Topic 9. That the immediate consequences. ATC comments. The office turned into a fish tank with no water, all over the world, trying to breathe. The whole world is moving slowly, as if any movement would make the situation worse. The auditor has requested access to the logs, asked for the recordings. He asked their names. The tabella he tried to explain, but he was like a man talking to a fault. It was just a misunderstanding. I didn't know that. The auditor is cut off, and without aggression, but with a coldness that it was. We don't investigate it if you knew who he was. We are currently investigating why have you refused to provide your service. And because the system is registered with a move in parallel at the same time, the word parallel, it was like a punch. And then there was the result of a more rapid. The auditor asked the pros safe to surrender the badge. Will you please, 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 we'll go with you. The security freeze. But now. The security guard took off the name tag with the handshaking. The tabella was white, and so the auditor looked at her. You are far away from the customer from now on. The word away was like a hammer. I saw a thing that a lot of human food, and the very ugly, the same kind of laughed, and now they would look at. No one wanted to be associated with it. Only the Lord, but he has not said. He has not brought it back. He just sat there in silence, watching them. And in the silence it was a punishment, because he did not want to get revenge. He just needed to justice. And now I want you to comment again. If you were in my shoes, you would get if you put this from the beginning. It would have been defended. It would have saved. You would have called someone else. I'm in you by asking this, because I blamed it for the day. And you'll see why when I tell you what happened right after because the story doesn't end where the authority, it is time to stop. Actually, this is where the danger begins. Because when someone's about to lose $1 million, one does anything so I don't lose it. And that's exactly what happened.
Topic 10. Farewell, strong, plus ATC. All such acts and super strong, the plus next to the video on the screen. I wanted to tell you that when the auditor arrived, everything was safe and secure. I wanted it to, but it was not. Because while in the office, the whole was focused on the screen in the system and the shame, and I saw something in the corner. The girl who had gone before. And it's the one that picked up the phone and ran to the port side again. She came back different. She did not look at anyone. She managed to avoid the area. And she held the phone tightly, as if he was receiving instructions. And then I realized, someone from the outside and was present at all, and the Lord, but also to realize it. Because he looked at her for a fraction of a second, and then he did a thing that no one noticed, but I vie. He placed the folder on the old under the arm, and you have saved to one of the papers in the inside pocket of the jacket, and fast, as if he knew it. If you try to take it in the folder, and I even got to the main part, I swallow dry. The hearing officer was too busy asking for the logs, and the office, the whole, seemed to be stuck to a script doing this. But that life is not a bureaucracy. Life is so unpredictable, and that's where it came from, the scariest moment of the day. The lights gave off a oscillada small, but it would be enough to cause the hum of the energy. It was the second floor and the system crashed. The screen is black. A moment of silence, then another beep, and then a message popped up, huge, a connection error, operating in the local mode. The auditor raised his head at the time. Who turned off the internet? The tabella, in the car, he said. I don't know. I swear. I'd seen the security guard turned away looking at the ground, as if it knew it too. And then, all of a sudden, the entrance door to the office opened, and a man walked in. Cap safety glasses. Half of his face is hidden. He didn't seem a customer. It looked like, job done. He was standing by the door, as if he were assessing the environment. And the Lord. But he looked at him, and with his voice low, he spoke one sentence. I froze. They did. I felt my heart beat in my ear. The hearing officer noted the tension. Lord, but do you know this man? But no one answered. The man in the cap, and gave a few steps away, looking around. How to find your document. How to find the folder. And then he said, without yelling, but loud enough, I just came to take what's ours. The word, we, made it all stop.
The hearing officer moved forward a step. "Sir, please identify yourself." The man smiled in the corner and, as if that were funny. And this time, it came to pass in the last one's surprise, the one that has changed everything once and for all. For the Lord. But the old man simple. He took a step forward and said, "Yes, high and tight," looking at the auditor and a man in a hat. "I'm not only the owner of the property." He paused. "I'm the person who reported it 3 months ago." Silence. I felt the air go out from the office. He went on to say, "I let them think that they were going to win. I left them to roam. I let them try. Because I want you to come up here. With an accident." The hearing officer's eyebrows rose. "So, it's an operation?" But he answered, "It is." And then there's the man in the baseball cap. He was serious. Because all of a sudden, he realized that he has entered into a registrar's office. You walked into a trap. Just, when a trap is revealed, and the animal is caught trying to run away. And he tried. He turned quickly to the door. But the door had already been locked up by 2 men, who I hadn't even noticed the discreet, with no uniform, but with that attitude of the one who were not there to sign the paper. The man froze. And then he sighed, nervously. "You don't know who they're dealing." But he answered, with a quiet, haunting, I don't know. I have buried too many of the people to pretend that I don't know." In this sentence, I shivered as a whole, because I get it. He, the Lord, was a story heavy, a whole lifetime. Maybe the folder is old. It is only the tip of the iceberg. The hearing officer took a step and said, the Lord himself. And so it came to pass that which I feared the most. A man tried to throw the phone on the ground, to destroy something, but it was contained before it. And the woman that he had gone out before you started crying, saying that it was a thank you, and that they threatened my family, that everything is bigger than she is. And all of a sudden, in the office of a luxury, became the scene of despair, as real. But he took the folder for the old. It is paper with a cool, as if, in the midst of the chaos, he was still the only one who has control. And then, before leaving, he looked at me, Tabellia, for the last time. He didn't say, "I told you so." He didn't say, "Well done." He said, "When you yelled at me, you don't even yelled at an old man simple." A pause. "You yelled at someone who's lost it all at once, and they will never let you lose it again." And he went out, the steps in place, no looking back. And I stopped in my tracks, and with the feeling that I had to share the one thing most of which, karma. I had seen the conflict between appearance and truth. Right now, I'm going to be straight up with you, because if you've made it this far, I want to ask all of the strengths of this channel, and this is the kind of story. Sign up now, if you haven't yet signed up, because I will post stories as well. And the next is even more insane. Leave your like, because it pushes the video to more people who need to see this guide. Share with someone, judging by the look, or with someone who has already been tried. Comment below which one you like, revoltaria, the humiliation of it, or the fact that it has been a part of the plan to cheat. If you want to, he says. Also, do you believe that the Romans made it the right to assemble is the issue? Or do you think he should have gone straight to the police without exposing yourself? I have read all of the comments from the truth, and now, look at the screen, because it has a history of showing up there right now on the side, and I assure you, this is another one that starts with the humiliation and ends with a revelation that no one sees coming. Click to watch right now.